Hi, this is my analysis on the Age of Spiritual Machines by Ray Kurzweil. I want to start talking about a little bit about the author, which I find myself really inspired by him, not only for all of his achievements, because they are so diverse and they vary from tech development to prophesize development, and but also music and writing books. So I find it really fascinating that a human can achieve all of these kinds of things in a very remarkable way. I also read his agnostics about the existence of a soul, which made total sense for me because the approach of this book, I find it a little bit mechanical, let's say, a little like 100% practical and scientific. It surely addresses some spiritual and philosophical aspects, but it's mainly that for me. So about the book, the first chapter is all about the creation of the universe and the Big Bang. Honestly, for me, I really think that in order to be 100% confident and to rely on the information of an event, you have to experience it, you have to be there, and you have to feel it with all of your 5 or 6 senses. and that's why, for me, all of this data that they provide here is merely a hypothesis, and we should be aware of that. But it's interesting that all of these calculations and all of this path that science has traced that leads to something like this, that's a book, that's technological advances, and like where is like science being a way of thinking that's driving us to things that we're, even though we're not sure about, they move us, and they are the driver for a lot of important things in humanity. In the second chapter, the book talks about the law of the chaos and the accelerated return. The chaos is another thing that random events that happen for no apparent reason and with no apparent order. And the accelerated return, for what I understood, is that whenever a process is established and acquired, that process is going to be refined and automated, and the growth and its refinement is going to grow exponentially until it reaches a point of tableau. And for me, it's really interesting that these two concepts that are opposite to each other in a sense. And it's really interesting because there are a lot of religions and philosophies that establish that in order for existence to be as it is, there are two very powerful forces acting against each other, and one is the opposite of the other. Like, even though there are a lot of way of thinking and philosophy, and everyone has its own idea of the world, this concept of two fundamental forces of existence, so it repeats itself a lot of times. For example, in this book, being these two laws. In the Buddhism, we have the yin and the yang, and there is one book that I read that says that even Christianism and Catholicism represent these fundamental forces with I don't know which was which, but with the Holy Ghost and with God, and I don't remember which other, but yeah, like these two forces, and this concept is presented in a lot of places. So chapter 4, I didn't really find it really interesting, but certainly sets the context for the next relevant subjects that the book addresses. The fifth chapter, however, talks about how information is acquired, then stored, and then how is it transmitted from one generation to another or from one system to another. That is completely necessary for evolution. I mean, I think that's the mechanism for evolution, and it finds you can find it in almost every aspect of life. But machines are doing this process 10 times better than we humans do. Like when you connect a USB storage device into a computer, this data that has been acquired from another computer and then stored there and then transmitted to the other computer is done practically like automatic and with 100% precision. I mean, you can see the same picture that you transmitted from this computer to, let's say, my mobile device. This phenomena, I think, is an expression of human homeostasis. And what I mean with that is, I mean, homeostasis is this mechanism of preservation of the self, and this, like your body keeping itself cool. But homeostasis is also all about energy saving, and we can relate these two phenomena because the humans are always searching for evolution and development and technological advances, but homeostasis drives us to seek for the most efficient way to do all of that. And I think machines and computers are an expression of that. I mean, that's that's what happened, and that's what I can relate to that with this concept. So then it talks about the limitations that it's going to have. What kind of data and tasks are going to be next for us humans whenever machines overcome us? And what I mean with overcoming us is, okay, first I want to say that nowadays our relations with machines, even though it's really, really strong and we're becoming very dependent of them, it's mainly limited. I mean, we cannot interact with machines further than, let's say, Alexa or Siri or Google algorithms. But we have to take care about what kind of data are we feeding to them. I mean, nowadays it's not relevant. There's a lot of like whatever we want to post on the internet in itself. But at which point machines and artificial intelligences are going to be able to discern about the information that we humans are feeding to them, and in which point that information is going to mean something to them, and in which point that meaning that they took out from that information are going to drive them to take what kind of action. And that, I think, that'll be the breaking point for the artificial intelligence to overcome humans, and that can lead to either evolution or a really bad scenario like the Matrix trilogy. The chapter 7 and bodies, I didn't find it really interesting because I'm not really into nanotechnology, but I think it's a really, really powerful technology that we should be treating with globes because, okay, it talked about this medical advance that they introduced nanobots to our blood in order to fight pathogen agents or to diagnose cancer, all of that stuff. I mean, medically and biologically, it will be awesome. I mean, it will be ensured health, and it will be again an expression of this homeostasis of the human being. I mean, it's no other thing that you trying to take care of your body in the best way possible, and automating that and making it with this kind of intelligence will be like the most efficient and advanced way to take care of the self. But at the same time, imagine if these nanobots are suddenly becoming conscious of themselves, and if they suddenly decide that you're a tyrant and that you're abusing them, uh, what's the outcome of that? I mean, they're already inside your body and they are totally able to kill you. So in the 1999 chapter, which stated, I think the most remarkable question that we can take about that we can take out from this is what would happen if suddenly computer and electronic devices disappear for a day or a week. I think humans are becoming a lot dependent on them, and we're putting almost all of our efforts in the technological advances, but our species is going to be overcome by that, and we're going to end up in singularity. I mean, well, I don't know if I really understood what singularity means, but we're going to merge into some other kind of being with all of these technological advances being introduced into our DNA and our composition. I found that really scary because it can have a lot of bad scenarios, and we depend on the resources that we have on this planet and technology, and I think it can fail, and we cannot rely 100% on that. But again, we come back to the manifestation of these laws that they establish in the first place, which is this order, this accelerated return, and the chaos being random events that just screw up whatever it was being developed. So moving on to the chapter that it's called 2009. When the author asks about if his predictions became a reality or not, it's funny and it's interesting, but honestly, I think predictions are only possibilities. But the world found them attractive, so they became a reality. I think that's what happened with mobile devices and cell phones, because there were a lot of, in the 50s and the 60s, there were a lot of science fiction writers who talked about this concept. And I mean, the ideas were already there. I mean, we only had to have the needed technology to develop them. So in this sense, the author would suddenly become like the narrator of the history of the world. And yeah, that's what I think of when he says like my predictions, or I don't know how he considers all of these facts that he states. So in the 11th chapter, it's again this homeostasis evolution that I talked about, that all of these medical advances and all of this technology that we're developing as humans suddenly gave us a lot of capabilities that we didn't have, and that we are suddenly becoming creators. I read a book that is called Homo Deus. It's really famous. It's from Yuval Noah Harari, and the last chapters talk about this a lot, and they place a lot of scenarios where, okay, let's say we have the power to create our sons being however we want. I mean, for example, I want my son to have blue eyes and dark hair and to be capable of playing all of the instruments and to speak 5 languages. So we can tweak the cerebral capacities of the human, and voila. I mean, you can do whatever you want. So we're playing gods. That's why it's called Homo Deus, this book. But I think that that is the point where we have to think about all of the ethical and moral implications, and that we as a species cannot skip that part and just blindly feed data to artificial intelligence and create the hardware necessary to interact with the world, right? So nowadays, all of this artificial world is mostly software. It's mostly in the web, and it's manifesting into cryptos and blockchain and NFTs and all that kind of things. But in the point where all of that is translated to hardware and robots and devices, and as I mentioned, the breaking point of the machines being conscious of themselves and taking action based on the information that we're feeding, we cannot skip that part as a species, because that'll mean we're just letting that happen with no consideration. And yeah, there are a lot of possible bets on Earth for this. So in conclusion, I found it really interesting. I find it really, really enlightening. I love this kind of book these kinds of book that really get you thinking and really get to the roots of all of your belief system. I honestly think this whole book is it's really objective and practical and based on all of the facts that we have, and based on science, which are not all facts, and there are a lot of hypotheses involved in this. But yeah, I mean, from what I take from it is that we as a species and as a citizen and as somebody who's in this world, for whatever that I do in my career, we should be conscious of this and the impact that we have as humans. And I think the most important question from this book is, okay, yeah, this phenomena is happening. Like, machines are going to overcome humans, but what is our true value? And yeah, I do agree that that one of the main questions of the book also is that what makes us human? I mean, we have to redefine what makes us human. So thank you.